and fullness in my heart. These are the gifts of God that I experience now, but obviously I'll experience them more so later. And I don't get them by just sitting there and counting beads. I get them by the Spirit of God lives in me.
Well, you don't necessarily just sit there and count beads, but...
I mean, you don't want to be a Buddhist.
Not necessarily, no, but I like it.
And you don't want to be a Hindu.
I simply, like, I have agreed with their ideas and philosophies much more so than Christianity.
What in specific?
Everything.
What in specific? I mean, you just don't want to be a Christian.
Were
you raised Christian?
I was raised Christian, yes.
Yeah, you just don't want to be a Christian now. So, you told me your name, it was?
Jared.
Jared, I sympathize with you. I was raised what I thought was Christian. I wasn't really.
I was raised true Christian.
You were not raised true?
Not true Christian.
Yeah.
No, it was a knockoff, hypocritical type.
That's how I was raised. And so I did the same thing. I thought, now, I never became an atheist, but I started to say, there's not much here in this church. So, if I want any kind of spirituality or knowledge of God, I'll check out, and I checked out Hinduism and Buddhism. And I thought, well, I'll take a little bit of that, like reincarnation, a little bit of karma, a little bit of, I like some of the things Jesus said. I took a little bit of what Jesus said, took a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of psychology, a little bit of Beatles.
What's wrong with taking a little bit of...
A little bit of Rolling Stone, a little bit of James Taylor. I'm dating myself, I'm 55, you know. A little bit of Carole King, a little bit of Hilda Braun, John Steinbeck, and Herman Hesse. And I thought, I'll come up with what's right for me.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
It's not truth.
Why not?
Personal truth. Personal truth.
It's my truth.
You, that's all that matters.
It wasn't God's truth.
You're like a... I thought you were a creation of God.
Huh?
You too.
I thought you were like, people are a creation of God, right? Like,
I'm made in the image of God, but it was my truth, and then you got your truth and your truth and your truth, and when I began to read the words of Jesus, I realized, wow, this is God's truth.
Those are not the words of Jesus. Those are the words of men that knew Jesus.
Well, they quoted him.
They didn't really.
Yeah.
They had like Wikipedia back then that Google found it. They were like, oh, you're on YouTube, Jesus, we got your quote.
They were with him. They traveled with him. They lived with him for 3 years. So in other words, I had what I thought was my truth, my understanding, and you know, it may have been better than some and not as good as others. Who knows? But it wasn't God's truth. It was mine. And when I began to read the words of Jesus, I realized, wow, this is a truth above everybody. This is God's truth. And when I began to accept, and by the way, instead of me judging the Bible and deciding what do I agree or don't agree with, I began to realize Jesus comes to us like this. I don't judge him, he judges me. I don't tell him what I believe, he tells me what to believe. He's the Lord God. And when I submitted myself to him and began to read his word, I realized, wow, then God gave me his truth. And God's truth, obviously, is head and shoulders above my truth. I mean, I don't have all wisdom, God does. I don't have all knowledge, God does. I don't have all truth, God does. I don't know the future, God does. I don't even know a lot of the past. God knows it all. And of course, my truth is tainted by my own personal desires and selfishness. God's truth comes in pure 100% love. And so when I discovered God's truth, it's like before when I had a little bit of Hinduism and Buddhism, Christianity and Jesus and Beatles and Crosby, Stills, Nash and James Taylor and Steinbeck and all these guys. It's like I had some really neat looking rocks, and I found out they're really only cubic zirconium, fake diamonds. And when I heard the words of Jesus, I found the real diamonds, the real gems of life.